Hey, welcome to the Relentless Positivity Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Martin. Got a very interesting guest for us today. And his son, he's got my son's name. So you know he's a great guy. So I appreciate you coming on. My guest today is Brenden Kumarasamy. I hope I got that right, man. I've been, oh, two thumbs up. Let's go. He's the founder of MasterTalk. Maybe you've heard of it. He coaches ambitious executives and entrepreneurs become the top 1% communicators in their industry. Super important. He also has a really popular YouTube channel called MasterTalk with the goal of providing free access to communication tools to everyone in the world. That's pretty cool. Hey, Brenden, thanks for being on, man.
Joe, the pleasure is absolutely mine. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, I'm excited to get into this. So let's just talk about this. How did you got this specialty? How did you discover you have this gift for communication?
Yeah, for sure, Joe. It all started in college. I went to business school and I did these things called case competitions. Think of it like professional sports, but for nerds. So, well, yeah, it's kind of the only way to explain this. So, while other guys my age are playing football or baseball or basketball, some other sport you probably wouldn't see me playing, I was doing presentations competitively, oddly enough. And as I grew up in college, I started to coach a lot of the other students, Joe, on how to speak, not because I was into coaching or anything, because we didn't really have anyone better. It was kind of me or The Rock. So they picked me, like an actual Rock, not like Dwayne Johnson or anything. So I started helping with their communication, Joe. And then a few years later, I had the idea for Master Talk, the YouTube channel, because I realized that everything that I was teaching them wasn't available for free on the internet. So I started making videos, and here we are today.
Oh, very cool. So let me ask you this. So you're at these competitions. Is there trash talk amongst the communicators out there?
No one asked me that question. I'm glad you did. Hell yeah. There's a
Yeah.
ton
Yeah.
of trash talk. My God. There's not a lot of swearing going on, but it's more
Yeah.
in the sense of like very intense. Like think about it like this. Once again, very hard to picture, but try your best here. Is imagine 800 students, not 800 students in a building from like 13 different universities slash colleges, and they're all presenting PowerPoint karaoke's to each other, PowerPoints to each other. It's wild.
Oh, that's great, man. I can just imagine the trash talk. I bet it's great. Yeah, that's awesome. I'd like to see one of those.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. So have you ever been scared of public speaking yourself? Is this something you've ever been nervous or scared about?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And let me go through the hit list here. So the first thing is I was born and raised in Montreal. So for those who don't know Montreal, it's a city where you need to know how to speak French, which is a language I didn't know. So my whole life, Joe, I'm educated in French, which means that every time I gave a presentation in school, not only was I uncomfortable like most of us are, I was presenting a language I didn't know.
Oh,
Right. So I was at first grade. I was like, bonjour. So that's one. And there's three strikes. That's the first strike. The second strike is I have a crooked left arm. So it's not easy to catch on my social medias, but I had a surgery when I was younger. So when I was young, I had like a big cast when I was in kindergarten and first grade. So I'm not the person people want to make friends with. I don't know their language.
right.
And I got a cast. So no one wants to talk to me. So that's the second problem. And the third one is you would think, Joe, okay, Brendan's a communication expert. He probably studied in communication in college. Anything but that, man. I have a bachelor's degree in accounting. So there you go.
Accounting are they're known for their communication skills, though, right?
They're known for something. If you mean terrible communication skills, absolutely.
Yeah, well, I hear you, man. So I took French in high school, and French one, yeah, you can pretty much show up and you get a C, and they move you on. But French two, I showed up for French two, and I did not pay attention to French one, and it was all in French. So the I raised my hand. And I said, "Hey, excuse me," and she said, en français." I was like, can I go to the principal? I don't know how to say this, but I'm going to the principal. I got to change my schedule. I had to get out of there, man. So I feel you on that. Not be able to speak the French. I got bibliothèque, library, and that's about it. Un crayon, and I'm good.
Wow, that's really good. It's better than most. Better than
Hey, there you go.
most.
If you need a pencil in the library, I got you.
I love
So,
that,
so
man.
man, I love your three daily public speaking exercises. Could you share that with us?
Absolutely. I've changed them a little bit ever since, but I'm happy to share three. So I call them the easy three. So the first one is the random word exercise. So where you're picking a random word like hat, like headset, and you're creating presentations out of thin air. And the reason why this is so effective, Joe, is if we can make sense out of nonsense, we can make sense out of anything. So that's why it's important for us to do this exercise on a daily basis and practice and get better. Do this with their kids or nieces or nephews. That's number one. Number two is the question drill. So the question drill simply means this, Joe. In our life, we always get asked questions, like on this podcast, with our family, our friends, question. But instead of being reactive, let's be proactive. So every day for 5 minutes, Joe, think of one question that you think somebody's going to ask you. Hey, what's this podcast about? What are you trying to achieve with relentless positivity, etc.? And write out those answers in advance. If you do that once a day for a year, you'll have answered 365 questions about your podcast, your expertise. You'll be unbeatable. And then there's number three, the last one. It's so simple, nobody does it, Joe. Video messages. Make a list of the people you really appreciate in your life, like your son, who has the same name as me, right? Your nieces, your nephew, your family, and ask yourself a simple question, not just to Joe, but to the audience. When was the last time you sent them a video message? 20 seconds. Hey, I'm thinking about you. Nobody does it, so be the first person who does.
Oh, man. So in less than 10 minutes, I can get better every day, right?
Literally. I would even argue, Joe, 5 minutes.
5.
And this, maybe even 30 seconds. Like you could start with like one video message, because the one video message you'll send is one more than 99% of people in America are willing to send, or just in general, right? But if we make those videos, for example, let's say the top 10 people who are listening to your podcast right now, these are your fans. Let's say they live in Alabama. They love relentless positivity. They're always watching what you're doing. What if we sent them all a video message? It would make they'd be like, oh my God, somebody famous just sent me a video message. That famous person will be you.
Oh, man. See, I probably have about 10 listeners. That's about right. I could do that.
I'm sure you have more than 10 listeners. I bet you're top 10.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's a great idea, though. I mean, I have a business, too, so that would be great to just do for clients. Just, hey, just appreciate what you do and all that good stuff. Man, that's awesome.
Absolutely.
I love it. So let's get into some specific, so I want to talk about, I remember being in college and having to do a group presentation with somebody. And we have to present this thing as a group. People do it at work as well. How do you coach people do that?
Absolutely, Joe. So there's a few things I always like to point out with group presentations. The first one is even if we're not speaking, we're still speaking. What does that mean? So let's say John, Julie, and Jim are on a presentation together. So John, Julie, and Jim, they're giving this presentation. John's speaking, and then stops speaking, and then Julia starts talking in the group presentation. Usually what Jim and John start to do is they start looking around the place. I wonder what's for lunch. I wonder what's for dinner. So even if you're not saying anything and Julia is speaking, you're still saying something. You're telling the audience that, by the way, I spent 3 months working with Julia, and I'm not paying attention. So you probably shouldn't either. That's what you're telling people.
Yeah.
So that's number one. Realize that when you're not speaking, you're still speaking. Number two is take leadership. Be the leader of your team. If you're spending time out of your busy schedule to listen to this podcast, that means you are a leader. You're somebody who wants to stand out, because most people wouldn't listen to a podcast like this.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? So what does that mean? That means take the responsibility of a leader. Understand the strengths and the weaknesses of your teams. Take the hardest parts, give them the easy parts, make their life as easy as possible so that you go in there a winner. And finally, number three, Joe, have a strong Q&A system, questions and answers. This is a bit counterintuitive. A lot of people don't realize that even if you give the best presentation of your life, Joe, if you get to the Q&A and you're contradicting each other and you suck, your whole presentation falls apart. So how do you manage this? I call this Q&A master. Super simple. Have 4 people, let's say, who are giving a group presentation, and make the one person the master. Let's say that master is John. So when John receives questions as the master, all John does is he looks to the left and he notices who has their hands in front of their bodies versus behind. So if you have your hands in front of your body, you're essentially telling John, I can answer this question. And if you have it behind your body, it means I don't know the answer to this question. Don't call on me. And that's how you do Q&A master.
Wow. See, I like that you got the 3 steps. I can remember 3 steps, man. That's genius right there. If you give me 18 steps, I'm out. Even if they're great steps, right? I got
Absolutely, brother.
All right, so next time I'm in on that. I'm watching the hands. So let me ask you this: how about a sports team, like a coach of a sports team? How would you handle that? Like, how do you communicate to your players effectively?
I love that scenario. I would say in that context, it's a little bit different because sports is a different environment. Let's say presentations. Let's say you take football, right? American football, a lot of moving parts there. So I would say it starts with getting the small things right to build the trust. So trust is very important in sports. Let's say you take something like Tom Brady, whenever he's shooting a ball, he needs to make sure the person who's receiving it knows where it's going, know how to follow through with that action. So what does that mean in the context of sports? I would say as a coach, the first thing that you need to do is really listen effectively and understand everyone on the team. So I always like to say this in the context of kid-parent relationships. Kids never do what parents ask them to do. They always be who their parents are. So I'm going to make a random guess to know that your kids, there's a reason they're positive. There's a reason they're awesome people based on our conversation before this podcast. Because you're an awesome person, Joe. Because you're showing up in that way. So it's the same thing with the coach. If the coach is spending time with their team players, sitting them down, being calm, asking them questions, getting to know them, they're going to do the same thing with each other. So you get to choose the culture that you get to build. And the best way that you choose the culture is by being the number one example of the culture that you want to create for your teams.
I love it, man. So that's what the ones they say in coaching is you're either allowing it or you're teaching it, right? So you set that culture, and you're right, man, and it's especially with parenting. So, all right, how about next time I'm running a meeting, and always every time you're running a meeting, you got some people that are checked out, some people that are on the edge of the seat, the teacher's pet. How do I run a meeting effectively?
I love that nuance there, Joe. So three questions. Simple. And I'll repeat that a few times. What is the goal of the presentation? What is the contribution of the presentation / meeting? And the third question, how do I communicate my contribution in a way that inspires and adds value? So let me repeat that again. What is the goal of the meeting? What am I doing in this meeting, basically? And the third piece is how do I communicate what I want to share in a way that makes people go, wow, this person's really impressive. So what does that mean? Question number one, what's the goal of the meeting? Usually when you hear that question, you'll find out I'm not really sure for 10% of the meetings I'm in.
Yeah.
Right? So it generally means I just gave you 10% of your life back. Just delete those meetings. Next question. Why am I in this meeting? Okay, so for let's say 80, 90% of what you got left. Okay, there's a clear meeting, but there's a clear goal, But the next question becomes, so why am I here? And you'll realize for another 10%, there's actually no point for you being there. There's actually nothing that you should. Yeah, it's an important meeting, but it's not one you need to be in. So There you go. So that leaves, let's say, 70% of the meetings that you got left. So already we saved 20% of people's life. So now third question. Okay, the goal is clear. Okay, I need to do this. Contribution is good. Okay, people really actually need to hear from me from this meeting. People want my ideas. They want my thoughts. People make the mistake in question 3, Joe. How do I communicate my contribution in a way that inspires and adds value? So here's what I'll say on this. Every time we open our mouth, Joe, it's a reflection of our personal brand. Imagine if I showed up on this podcast and I sounded like this. Hey, Joe. Yeah. You'd be like, oh my God, like, how does this guy coach communication? Like, doesn't make any sense. So the way we show up matters, Joe. So write down what you want to say in a meeting. Pick the most important one of the week. Don't do this with 10 meetings. Do it with one. Just write it down and practice that 3-5 times, and you'll immediately improve the way you show up.
Man, because I have been in a lot of meetings that I've wondered, why am I here? What is happening? You could have saved so much of my life. So I wish I would have known you years ago. So all right, let me ask you, all right, this is kind of a little bit different, more specific. How about a sales presentation? How do we get more specific on the sales side?
Absolutely. And I love that you're going through the scenarios because then we could just knock each of the bullseyes down. So for sales, what I would say is a bit different of approach. You're absolutely right on that. So in that context, what happens, Joe, is it's a more of a question of how much time are you spending having dinner with the person you're selling to? So what do I mean by this? I mean actual dinner. And I'll literally give you my playbook. Why am I able to sell my services so effectively? Is it because I'm suave? Is it because I got the right headset? Not at all. It's because I sit down my clients and we have dinner, like actual dinner, right? We're meeting physically, and I'm asking them, how should I sell clients better next time? And they literally tell me, they go, look, Brenden, the value of your service is this, this, this. This is what adds value for people. Don't mention this. Talk about the confidence. Talk about this. Message it that way, because that's what is going to get people to buy. And then I talk to everybody and I just sit down and I listen. And I go, perfect, confidence, blah, blah, blah. So then when I go into a prospecting call with the potential client, I literally say what my client says, copy paste. So let me get this straight, Joe. You're struggling with confidence in the boardroom. You're looking for your next job, your promotion. I'm not making this stuff up. They're just telling me. And you're looking to grow your business. Is that correct? And then they usually go, whoa, it's almost like you can read my mind. So what's the mistake, Joe? The mistake is people don't listen. They don't go to the people who've already bought services from them, sit them down and go, how do I sell more people like you? Get your clients' take. And let me give you some questions that people can copy paste. If you were to communicate what I do to somebody else, what would you communicate? If you're in my shoes, how would you communicate my idea back to me? And the third question you can ask is, who can you introduce me to better refine my ideas? That's it.
Man, this is gold right here. I hope people are taking notes right now. You can rewind this podcast. You can rewind it. Go ahead, rewind it. It's fine. It's not live. So, and a big thing, he's mentioned it multiple times, is listening. You know, we think communication is kind of what we're saying, but listening is the biggest part that he's mentioned several times. Hope you took that notes too. So the reason I ran through all these scenarios, because on his YouTube channel, he has so many different scenarios you can go through. Just about if you want to communicate like Brene Brown, go learn how. He goes through the playbook on that as well. You got to go check out the YouTube. So hey, YouTube, it's an excellent resource to learn, but you also do live coaching. So tell me a little bit about your free live coaching you do. It's interactive. It's cool. So check it out.
Absolutely, Joe. I absolutely love this conversation. You're clearly an embodiment of your show. You ooze positivity. So I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah,
It's
man.
definitely
Yeah.
needed. Definitely needed. So yeah, absolutely. So the live training is a Zoom call that I do every 3 weeks. It's free, it's live, it's interactive, it's super fun. And if you want to register for it, all you have to do is go to the website rockstarcommunicator.com.
Rockstar Communicator. I'll link that in show notes just in case you can't spell like me. I'll copy and paste that in there. We'll put that in show notes. So you can just click on it. But yeah, so tell them tell us this about an hour long. How does this work? If people go in there, they go, it's a Zoom just like we're doing right now. What does it look like?
You got it. You got it, brother. So basically, it's a 90-minute call with me. So I lead the workshop. There's usually like 25, 30 people on the call. Everyone's got their cameras on. Of course, if you want to listen silently and participate, that's totally fine too. But these are meant to be more interactive. So I'm saying, Joe, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? And then we go through a few concepts in that training. I'll give you some examples. How do you set communication goals? A lot of people don't have communication goals. How do you run effective meetings? So we went through the 3 questions today. We do a role play on that call. So we pick 2 people from the audience and we have them run a meeting so people can see the difference. And then we play a game like we talked about today, the random word exercise. We have a few people go through the exercise. You can see me do it, and you can see other students that are joining us for that call do it as well.
Oh man, I love your approach to how do you get things out there. It's amazing. It's so cool. Like I said, these are free resources. These are stuff that you could pay for stuff like and not get as good a quality. That's what you're
Thank
getting.
you, brother.
Yeah, so go check out his YouTube. Check out those live calls. I'm gonna go get on one day, man. I'm gonna get on there and I'm gonna see how. I'd love to see you in action now. It's been great to see you on here and meet you on this. But what are some other ways they can follow you?
Absolutely, brother. And sure, I'd love to have you there. Yeah, so the other piece is the YouTube channel. We have hundreds of free videos. All you have to do is type MasterTalk in one word. Don't worry, you don't have to spell my name, it's too complicated, but you can just say type MasterTalk. You'll find me on YouTube and you'll have access to all those videos right now for free.
Oh, well, Brenden, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all these 3-step awesome tips, man. That's right up my alley. It's got my attention span. That's what I can handle. So thank you for coming on. These are great. Like I said, I'm going to rewind this and check these notes and take some notes on this. And I hope people are as well. Go check Brenden out. Make sure you follow him on there on social media as well, YouTube. Brenden, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, brother. Really appreciate this conversation.
All right. Keep up the great work, and I'm going to see you in a live chat soon.
For sure, brother.
All right, man. We'll see you later.